Hi, it's time for a 5-minute filament review. This here is Priline Polycarbonate. I bought a roll of this last year because I was looking for a hard engineering type material to print some stuff, maybe with a little bit higher temperature resistance than the PETG that I usually print in, and I've been printing away, and I've actually printed most of a whole roll of this Priline Polycarbonate by now, so I think I have some pretty good experience with it. So one thing to note about this material is that for best layer adhesion, you want minimal fan. But if your fan is too low, you will get cracking without an enclosure. So I do print without an enclosure, and I really had to spend some time tuning my fan settings to maximize what I could get with layer adhesion and strength, while at the same time not causing any cracking issues. So I did manage to find a happy medium, and on my website I will share those settings so that other people who want to try to print this without an enclosure will have some success. So there is definitely a height limit to just how high I can print models with this without the enclosure. The taller you make something out of this Priline polycarbonate, the more likely it is without an enclosure to try to warp or crack or do something bad, because it's just that kind of material, polycarbonate. Now this is printable on a normal 3D printer like my Prusa i3 Mark III. Okay, so let's take a look at a few of the models that I printed with this. This is yet another filament sample keycard edition. I print all of my filaments in this. What's interesting here, you can see through this thin section a little bit, so it's not quite as opaque as some materials. It did do the bridging there all right. It did this angle all right. The surface finish is good. The holes and cutouts are precise. It printed out the filament sample pretty good. Let's take a look. Here is Sir Layers a Lot. So Sir Layers a Lot turned out fine. That's one good way to tune a filament like this, is something like Sir Layers a Lot, because if you don't have your fan settings correct, and you're cooling it too much, you can easily crack this, and where I most likely will get cracks is up in the head. But this shows I got the settings tuned, no cracking. It's probably hard to pick up the detail on the camera because it's such a white color, but he did the overhang there, he did the sword angle. A functional, solid Sir Layers a Lot, reasonably strong. He's not falling apart or anything. A good print on the Sir Layers a Lot. I think some of my time spent trying to tune the settings was well spent on that. So here is a nutcracker that I found on Thingiverse. So this thing it needs to be pretty durable. People do print these in PLA. The author of this model did design it so that the layers ran the right way to make it really strong with internal reinforcements for PLA. But printing it in polycarbonate, I think it's even harder than PLA. And well, I know it's even harder, but it's been super durable with various nuts that I have tried to crush in it. Certainly I have not broken this thing, despite some abuse. And you can also see that, we got a relatively precise engineering print. It spins freely and easily, just fine. I do use this around food items, cracking nuts, and usually I'm pretty careful with my 3D prints around food items, because you really don't know, even with an MSDS sheet, exactly what kinds of chemicals might be in contact with your food. But I figure this, it's really in contact with the outer shell of the nut that nobody is eating, so I figure probably reasonably safe bet on this one. So here is my filament sample tray full of yet another filament samples, keycard edition. It printed fine. I'm not going to pull all of these out so you can look at the insides of the tray, but the insides of the tray is just fine, even with relatively thin sections between the samples. I think it turned out good. I may see a little bit here where it tried to pull up on this corner. So that is, as the filament without an enclosure, as you're printing and it's trying to cool, it will try to pull up on a corner. So you have to be a little bit careful with that. This filament, I think, really does beg to be printed with an enclosure, and I kind of wish I had one. But nevertheless, I was able to get this nice filament tray out of it. Here, my Pana press. Can you see that in there? I have made myself a whole assortment of things for the Pana press to press bearings in various fittings, and I use the polycarbonate for that. It's good and strong. It's actually put a magnet in there so you can magnet snap these things on. So I printed both this bottom plate here and this, and you know, I'm slamming relatively strong forces on stuff in there, pressing bearings and pins and whatever else you do with the Pana press. I actually made a whole collection of those. Let me grab them. So you can see a whole set of these here, you know, even really tiny ones, ones with holes in them that I use for pressing Nixie tube pins. One here for IDC connectors. I thought there was a mating top plate to go with the IDC connectors too. I don't know what oh yeah, this one here goes with the IDC connectors to press them. Various square ones, rectangular ones, half moon shaped ones. So this is good hard material for tool use. I'm happy with it. Priline does also make a carbon fiber polycarbonate that is black, and I will be reviewing that in a separate video. So I think, let me put these together. So in conclusion, I'm really happy with this filament. It did take me a while to tune it, particularly around the fan settings, but I think it has been giving me strong functional prints. Like I say, I printed essentially a full roll of this stuff. I don't even know where all it's gone around the workshop, but it's been used up in various parts, and it's been working good. I've never had a part failure with this filament, so I'm happy with it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If this sort of thing interests you, then please subscribe, and I will make more of them. Thank you.